I found out that my perfect wife has a Camilo. Then my parents admit that I was in an arranged marriage, and I was the only one who didn't realize it. I noticed on social media that there are always likes from a teenage girl on posts that she puts up about me. I thought it was a bit weird that she was friends with a teenager, so I looked through the photos I could see on her profile. There are a few with my wife from about 8 to 10 years ago, and another man. When I asked my wife, she said she was her ex-boyfriend's daughter. She explained that they were very serious, but that he had ended up getting married to someone else. This seemed odd, so I asked my father-in-law about him. The next time I saw him, my father-in-law rolled his eyes and said, "Don't mention Camilo. I am so glad you came along because that guy was bad for her. He was unemployed, a single father, and just very trashy. We never would have accepted him. I am very successful career-wise and well-established. My family is very prominent and well-regarded in the community." The more I thought about it, the more it felt like my background had more to do with things than anything. I asked my wife about Camilo again and asked if she would have married him if not for her family. She said that one of the biggest reasons he chose someone else was because her family refused to accept him. When I asked what was different about me, she responded, "He was Camilo and you're Charles." I asked if that meant she would marry him if anything happened to me. She shook her head, laughed, and said I was being ridiculous and that she didn't think like that. I told her I wanted her to remove and block her ex and his daughter from her social media immediately and to stop communicating with them. She's told me she has a cordial relationship with both of them and doesn't feel it's fair of me to ask her to cut them out. I'm losing sleep over the fact that I feel like a placeholder who is there to please her family and that she'll go back to him once her parents are gone. I'm starting to doubt every interaction I ever had with her. When I bring it up to her, she gets upset and tells me to stop dwelling on her past. I wish I'd never known this because I feel like my happiness has been drained. So I sat down with my wife and told her that this whole Camilo thing was bothering me, that I'd never heard his name before for someone she held in such high regard. She explained that he had cheated on her and had married the woman he cheated with. They stopped speaking for a while, but they started being cordial again as he was having problems in his marriage and through his divorce. She swears on her life that there's only friendship there, that she can't ever forgive him, and that she has no interest in him romantically anymore. I was over at my parents' house telling my father about Camilo. He kept telling me not to worry, that everyone has a past, and that she chose me. Mom overheard Dad and me and came into the kitchen. "Are you serious right now? Is she talking to Camilo again?" After that exhausting conversation with my wife, I was shattered. Every night, thoughts of Camilo crept back into my mind like a ghost haunting my marriage. She kept saying I was being ridiculous, but something inside me screamed that I wasn't. It wasn't baseless jealousy. It was an intuition that there was more between her and that man than she was letting on. The fact that she kept this cordial relationship with him only made things worse. One day, I came home from work earlier than usual. My wife wasn't home. As I walked into the living room, I saw her phone charging on the table. I had an impulse, a temptation I had always resisted because I believed in mutual trust in a relationship. But at that moment, I couldn't hold back. I picked up the phone and started scrolling through her messages. Right away, I found a conversation with Camilo. She had deleted most of the old messages, but a few recent ones were still there. They were talking about mundane things like his job and his daughter, the teenager who had been liking her posts. But what chilled my blood was a message where she said, "Sometimes I miss how simple things were with you." Simple? What did she mean by simple? Here I was killing myself to keep our life stable and financially secure. And she missed a time when things were simple. I kept scrolling through the conversation, and although there weren't obvious flirtations, the closeness between them made me nauseous. The messages were far more frequent than she had let on. She was talking to him during the day, at times when I was at work, times when she should have been focused on us, on our plans. That night, I confronted her again. I showed her the messages and, with a calmness I didn't know I had, asked, "Do you miss him?" She turned red immediately, but kept her composure. "You invaded my privacy. I can't believe you went through my messages. Answer the question." My voice rose, breaking the heavy silence in the room. "Do you miss him? Do you think about how your life would have been with him?" She hesitated. She said nothing for a few seconds, and that was all I needed to confirm what I already feared. Finally, she replied, "I miss some things, yes, but that doesn't mean I want him back." That was the knife in the heart. I had been here, giving everything to this marriage, while she had a part of her heart reserved for this man. I stood up, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the anger boiling inside me. If you miss anything about him, then why the hell are you with me? Why are you in this house, living this life that I've been providing for us? She started crying, something that usually made me soften, but this time, I couldn't. Not after everything. I married you because I love you, Charles. But life with him was different. He made me feel alive in a way that I can't explain. I laughed bitterly. So that's it? You were expecting me to be the perfect guy for your family, while he was the one who made you feel alive? You're telling me that I'm the convenient husband, while he's the man you truly wanted. She said nothing, just cried more. I went to the bedroom and started packing my things. I decided I needed to get out of there for a while, to clear my head. I could barely breathe in that house. As I packed, she came into the room, trying to stop me. "Charles, please don't go. We can work this out. I'm not saying I want to be with him. You're the one I chose." I turned to her, my gaze hard. "You may have chosen to marry me, but deep down, you never really chose me. You were just following your family's expectations. If they had accepted Camilo, you wouldn't even be here now." She was speechless. What I said hit the mark, and I knew it was the truth. I grabbed my bag and walked out, ignoring her pleas for me to stay. That night, I stayed at my parents' house. I told them everything that had happened, and to my surprise, my mother was the first to back me up. I always thought she had a soft spot for that Camilo, but I didn't want to worry you. If she's still talking to him, that's not a good sign. My father, on the other hand, tried to downplay the situation. "Everyone has a past, son. What matters is what you build together. Don't let a ghost destroy what you have now." But I couldn't see our marriage the same way anymore. I spent the next few days away, thinking about what to do. My wife tried to call me multiple times, but I needed space. After a week, I decided to go back to get the rest of my things and have one final conversation. When I arrived home, I found something that made me lose the ground beneath me. There was a new message from Camilo on her phone, sent that very morning, saying, "I know things are complicated, but I'm here if you need anything. If you ever want to talk in person, you know where to find me." That was the last straw. I went straight to a lawyer's office and started planning my way out of that marriage. She might have chosen to marry me, but I wasn't going to be the second option in anyone's life. I was determined to take back control of my life and build something real for myself, with or without her. The divorce process was quick, without major disputes. Maybe my ex-wife felt the weight of guilt, or perhaps she didn't want to prolong the inevitable. I signed the papers and for the first time in years felt like I had regained control of my life. The hurt was still there, but knowing that I wouldn't be living in the shadow of Camilo anymore gave me the strength to move on. At first, I tried not to think about how things were going for her. After all, she had emotionally betrayed me for years, keeping Camilo around like a backup plan. Deep down, I expected her to finally throw herself into his arms since the barrier of marriage was no longer there. But surprisingly, things didn't turn out the way she expected. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I heard from mutual friends that she was trying to get closer to Camilo again. It was almost predictable. She had kept him in her life, even if just cordially, and now that she was single, it was as if she could finally live out the romance her family had stopped years ago. She was ready to start over with him, probably even thinking they were destined to be together. But what she didn't expect was Camilo's true nature. Camilo had seemed like married women. The thrill for him wasn't in building something real, but in being the man on the sidelines, the one who brought excitement to an already stable life. What my ex didn't understand was that his attraction lay in the forbidden tension, the adventure of being involved with women who were already committed. Now that she was free, he wasn't interested anymore. When she reached out to him, maybe expecting that he would welcome her with open arms, his reaction was cold, almost indifferent. He rejected her outright. Camilo made it clear that he wasn't interested in a serious relationship. He had spent years playing with her emotions, but the magic disappeared the moment the forbidden was no longer in play. For him, the fun was over the second she became a viable, available option. He liked the danger, the adrenaline of flirting with the unattainable. And now, without her marriage as a barrier, the excitement faded away. Of course, she was devastated. After leaving me, thinking she could finally have the great love story she wanted, she discovered the hard way that Camilo had never wanted anything real with her. He only liked the idea of being the other man, the one in the shadows, the one who was part of the fantasy of a forbidden life. When reality hit, he lost all interest. I found out about this through a mutual friend of ours, someone who also thought her relationship with Camilo had been toxic from the start. She went after him, my friend told me. She thought she could finally be with Camilo now that you're divorced. But the guy doesn't want anything to do with her. He dismissed her without even thinking twice. I didn't know how to feel about it. Part of me felt a bitter sense of satisfaction, like karma was finally catching up to her. But another part just felt pity. She had destroyed our marriage, thrown away a stable and happy life for a man who never truly wanted her. I learned that after Camilo's rejection, she tried to contact me again, maybe in a last-ditch effort to recover what she had lost, but I had nothing left to offer. When she called me one night, crying and asking to talk, I simply said, "You made your choices. There's nothing left between us." In that moment, I felt the last piece of our relationship crumble. She had bet everything on an illusion, and she had lost. And as much as I still had scars, I knew I had made the right decision. She was no longer my responsibility, and her regret came too late. As the months went by, I rebuilt my life. I started going out more, reconnected with old friends, and little by little, the sadness gave way to renewal. I learned to live without the doubts and insecurities that Camilo's name had always brought me. She, on the other hand, was stuck in a past she could never get back. The man she had idealized had shown his true colors, and the future she had imagined with him crumbled into dust. In the end, it was a harsh lesson for her. Camilo wasn't the Prince Charming she thought would save her. He was just a man who enjoyed the fantasy of stealing what wasn't his, and once he had it, he lost all interest. She had bet everything on the wrong man, and by the time she realized it, it was far too late. After the divorce was finalized, it felt like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I won't lie. At first, the feeling of loneliness was overwhelming. But over time, I started to realize that being alone was so much better than living with distrust, doubts, and the constant ghost of Camilo haunting every conversation. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, this time focusing on myself. I started going out more, got back into sports, and reconnected with friends who had distanced themselves during my marriage. It was during one of these outings that I met someone new, a remarkable woman named Sophia. At first, I wasn't rushing into anything, and that was the beauty of the situation. We weren't in a serious relationship, and that was exactly what I needed. Something light, respectful, and free from the emotional baggage and unresolved secrets that my past was filled with. Sophia and I would go out occasionally, have dinners, watch movies, and laugh a lot. She showed me a completely different perspective on life. There was no pressure, no emotional games, no unspoken expectations. Everything between us was clear, straightforward, and, most importantly, respectful. She knew about my divorce, and with all the patience in the world, let me move at my own pace. I was genuinely happy, even without being in a serious commitment. While I was moving forward with my life, I occasionally heard news about my ex-wife. Mutual friends mentioned that she wasn't doing well. After Camilo's rejection, it seemed like things began to unravel for her. She became obsessed with trying to reconnect with him, but, as expected, he wanted nothing to do with her. He completely distanced himself, and she was left alone, dealing with the fallout of her own choices. She was also facing financial struggles, as unlike when we were together. Now she had to manage life without the stability I had provided. I heard she went on a few dates with other guys, but nothing lasted. It seemed she was stuck in a cycle of frustration, trying to regain control of her life, but constantly failing. And honestly, I just didn't care. I didn't feel anger or a need for revenge. To be truthful, I didn't think about her much at all. It was like that chapter of my life belonged to another time, another person. She had made her choices, and now she was dealing with the consequences. Meanwhile, I had chosen to move on. and that brought me a peace I didn't think was possible. Sophia never pressured me about what we would be in the future, and I think that was the greatest gift she could have given me. What we had was real, honest, but without the need for labels or unrealistic expectations. She made me realize that it was possible to be with someone without the chains of a complicated past holding us back. Now, when I look back, I can see how my ex was deeply lost in her illusions. She bet everything on a fantasy, ignoring what really mattered, and lost it all. And while she struggled, trying to find some glimpse of happiness, I was experiencing something completely different: peace. Peace with myself, peace with my decisions, and peace with the future, whether it included Sophia or not. Life was better, much better,